Hello everyone and welcome back to another video from our channel, Immortal News. Today we invite you to join us for a gentle and heartfelt remembrance. We'll be honoring the American stars we've recently lost, as well as beloved figures from around the world whose lives touched us in ways we may not even realize until they're gone. These are the stories of people who made us smile, inspired us, and left behind memories that continue to echo in our hearts. Before we begin, if you could take a moment to give this video a like, it would truly mean a lot. Your support helps us continue sharing these meaningful tributes and keeping their legacies alive. Thank you for being here with us. Now let's begin. Number 6. Those who welcome Dave Ward into their living rooms each night remember a calm, steady voice that made the news feel a little more like a conversation with a trusted friend. David Henry Ward was born on May 6, 1939 in Dallas and grew up in Huntsville, where his father served as pastor of the First Baptist Church. As a young man, he found his calling behind a microphone, starting his broadcasting career at KGKB Radio in Tyler, while attending Tyler Junior College. From those early radio shifts, he moved to Waco FM and then to Houston, becoming the first full-time reporter at KNUZ Radio in 1963. In 1966, Dave was hired on the spot at KTRK-TV, beginning a relationship with one station and one city that would define his life. He started as a reporter and photographer, and by 1968 he was promoted to weekday evening anchor. For more than 50 years, from 1966 to 2017, he anchored the 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. newscasts on KTRK-TV's Eyewitness News, guiding Houston through everyday stories and historic moments alike. Over the decades, Dave covered the Apollo spacewalk, the Vietnam War, conflicts in the Middle East, and the Houston Oilers era, and he interviewed 5 U.S. presidents. In June 2016, the Guinness Book of World Records recognized him for the longest tenure of any news anchor at the same station in the same market, a testament to both his professionalism and the trust viewers placed in him. His contributions reached far beyond the newsroom. Dave helped establish Houston Crime Stoppers, served as president of the Easter Seal Society Houston, and chaired the Public Affairs Advisory Board of the Houston Business Council. The city of Houston honored him with an honorary street sign, Dave Ward Place, outside the ABC 13 studios, a quiet landmark to a very public life of service. After open heart surgery in December, he left KTRK at the end of 2016, appearing for his final newscast on May 2, 2017. In May 2019, he shared his story in his memoir, Good Evening, Friends, echoing the familiar greeting that opened countless broadcasts. David Henry Ward died on December 13, 2025, at age 86. His legacy lives on in the city he served, the community he supported, and the generations of viewers who felt like they knew him. Tributes to Dave Ward. Number 5. Those who worked alongside her remember a woman whose warmth matched the courage she carried into every story she told. Madeleine Poulin was a Canadian broadcaster and journalist whose career at Radio Canada began in the 1960s, when she started out as a typist and editor. Through determination and talent, she moved from those early behind-the-scenes roles into the heart of the newsroom as a field journalist. In 1976, she broke a major barrier by becoming Radio Canada's first female parliamentary correspondent in Ottawa. Just a few years later, in 1979, she became the first woman posted to Paris as a foreign correspondent. From there, she reported on world events, including assignments in conflict zones such as Beirut and Poland, bringing viewers closer to difficult and often dangerous stories. Madeleine was known for her meticulous preparation, rigorous fact-checking, and her calm, fearless approach to the field. Colleagues and audiences alike recognized her for a warm, neutral interviewing style that allowed her subjects to open up, whether they were everyday people or major political figures, including Canadian leaders like Pierre Elliott Trudeau. In the 1980s, she took on a new challenge as host of the news magazine series Le Point, a role she held for nearly a decade. She later created Le Point Medias and worked on programs such as Second Regard, delving into media, culture, theater, geopolitics, and public life with the same depth and curiosity that defined all her reporting. Over more than 32 years at Radio-Canada, Madeleine Poulin helped open doors for women in journalism, both in parliamentary coverage and in international reporting. Her contributions were recognized with honors such as the Judith Jasmine Prize in 2015, celebrating the excellence of her career. Her professional journey also came with personal sacrifices, including choices around family life in order to pursue the work she believed in. Those who speak of her today describe a pioneer, a great lady of broadcasting whose fearless reporting, humanity, and dedication inspired generations of journalists, especially women, following in her path. Madeleine Poulin passed away on November 22, 2025, at the age of 87 in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Her legacy lives on in the many stories she told, and in the many voices she helped make room for. Tributes to Madeleine Poulin. Number 4. Those who shared the game of football with Paul David Wiggin often speak of a man whose consistency, work ethic, and kindness made every team he joined feel a little more like family. Paul David Wiggin was born on November 18, 1934, and died on December 12, 2025, at age 91. He was an American football player and coach whose life was tightly woven into the story of the sport he loved. At Stanford University, he became a dominant defender, earning first-team All-American honors in 1955 and 1956, and recognition as an All-Pac-10 selection. Fans would later vote him Stanford's Defensive Player of the Century, and in 2005 he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, a lasting tribute to his college greatness. Drafted in the 6th round of the 1956 NFL Draft, he joined the Cleveland Browns in 1957 and stayed for 11 seasons. As a defensive end, he played in 146 consecutive games, a remarkable streak of toughness and reliability. He helped lead the Browns to the 1964 NFL Championship, was selected to the Pro Bowl in 1965 and 1967, and became known for creating game-changing moments with 19 career fumble recoveries and standout production in seasons like 1964. When his playing days ended, Paul moved naturally into coaching and leadership. He served as defensive line coach and defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, then as head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and later as head coach at Stanford from 1980 to 1983, where he helped guide future Hall of Famer John Elway. In 1985, Paul began a long chapter with the Minnesota Vikings that would span 4 decades. He coached the defensive line, helped develop Hall of Famers Chris Dolman and John Randall, and then transitioned into a key role in the professional personnel department. There he helped grow the operation from 11 staff members to more than 200 and continued contributing as a senior consultant well into his late 80s. In recognition of his impact on the game and the region, he received the Bud Grant Distinguished Minnesotan Award in 2022. The Cleveland Browns also honored his legacy by inducting him into the Browns Legend Club in 2008. Away from the field, Paul married Stanford student Carolyn Curley Clark in 1956, and their life together included moments far beyond football, even including his work with the organizing committee for the 1984 Los Angeles Summer Olympic Games. He made his home in Edina, Minnesota, close to the team and community he served for so many years. Paul Wiggin's story is one of dedication to his craft, his teams, and the people around him. His influence lives on in the players he coached, the organizations he helped build, and the memories he leaves behind. Tributes to Paul Wiggin. Number 3. One admirer once said that Arthur L. Carter's sculpture felt like drawing in space, and that same sense of exploration and clarity seemed to guide the way he lived his life. Arthur Lloyd Carter was born in Manhattan, New York, and raised in Woodmere in a Jewish family whose roots reached back to Hungary. From early on, he moved comfortably between the worlds of ideas, numbers, and art. He studied French literature at Brown University, graduating in 1953, then served as a U.S. Coast Guard officer from 1953 to 1956, where he even picked up the welding skills that would later shape his artistic work. He went on to attend the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, blending a love of the humanities with a sharp business mind. He began his career at Lehman Brothers and in 1960 co-founded Carter, Berlind & Weil, a firm that would grow into Shearson Lehman Brothers. After a 25-year run in investment banking, Arthur chose a new path. He moved into publishing, starting the Litchfield County Times in 1981 and later founding the New York Observer in 1987, a paper that became known for its coverage of New York culture and politics. He also became a controlling stakeholder of the nation in 1985, later selling his interests in those publications in the 1990s and 2000s. Alongside this business life, Arthur quietly built a parallel world as a visual artist. Trained as a classical pianist from a young age, he brought a musical sense of rhythm to his drawings, paintings, and metal sculptures. Using the welding skills he learned in the Coast Guard, he created works that were shown in Tennessee, Rhode Island, Paris, and in solo exhibitions at galleries and museums including Layla Heller Gallery, the Mattituck Museum, the Tennessee State Museum, and the New Britain Museum of American Art. 2 volumes on his art were later published by Harry N. Abrams. Arthur shared his experience as an adjunct professor of philosophy and journalism at New York University, where he also served as a trustee and chairman of the Board of Overseers of the Faculty of Arts and Science. In 2008, NYU honored him by renaming its journalism department the Arthur L. Carter Journalism Institute. In his personal life, Arthur married 3 times. With his first wife, Linda Schweitzer, whom he married in 1957, he had 3 children, John, Wendy, and Ellen. He later married actress Dixie Carter in 1967, and together they had 2 daughters, Jenna and Mary Dixie. In 1980, he married Dr. Linda Kessler, and through this marriage he became stepfather to actress Allie Marsh. In all, Arthur was a father to 5 children and a grandfather to 12. Arthur Lloyd Carter died on December 7, 2025, at a hospital in Manhattan. He left behind a life that bridged finance, publishing, teaching, and art, and a family that carries his story forward. Tributes to Arthur L. Carter. Number 2. Those who knew Richard Bell remember a coach whose steady leadership, toughness, and quiet spirit lifted everyone around him. Richard Bell was born on September 2, 1937, and died on December 13, 2025 at age 88. He was an American college and high school football coach whose career stretched across 46 years, including 42 seasons in the college game. Football was not just his profession, it was the arena where he shaped character, discipline, and resilience in generations of young athletes. As a player, Richard took the field for the University of Arkansas, lining up at right end and tight end. He was a 2-year letterman in 1957 and 1958 and served as captain of the 1958 Arkansas Razorbacks, the first team coached by Frank Broyles. That era brought proud moments: a 9-2 season, a share of the Southwest Conference Championship, a victory over Georgia Tech in the 1960 Gator Bowl, and a top 10 national ranking. When his playing days ended, his coaching life began. Richard went on to work at 10 collegiate programs, including VMI, Georgia Tech, West Virginia, Texas Tech, South Carolina, Duke, East Carolina, Georgia, Navy, and Air Force. He became known as a master of defensive football, serving as defensive coordinator at 8 schools and leading South Carolina as head coach in 1982. Over his long career, he attended 17 bowl games and was honored as National Assistant Coach of the Year in 1998. Even after retiring from college coaching in 2006, his love for the game and for teaching drew him back. In 2010, he returned to the sidelines as defensive coordinator at Prince Avenue Christian School in Athens, Georgia, where he coached until 2017. He also shared his knowledge through his book, Winning Defensive Football, passing along the lessons he had spent a lifetime learning. Richard Bell is also remembered as a husband to Marilyn, a father of 4, and a grandfather of 8. Beyond statistics and titles, he is cherished for his commitment, his example of hard work, and the way he inspired both players and fellow coaches. Tributes to Richard Bell. What's trending on the internet? News 1. Some stories really remind us how quickly life can change, and how important it is to look out for one another. In Bastrop County, Texas, just outside Austin, a devastating school bus crash has touched the hearts of people all across the country. The crash happened on a Friday afternoon when a school bus carrying pre-kindergarten students from the Elgin Independent School District was heading back from a field trip to a zoo. According to officials, an 18-wheeler traveling in the opposite direction crossed over the center line and crashed into the bus, also involving another vehicle. On that bus were very young children, just 4 and 5 years old, along with their teachers and chaperones. One child tragically lost their life and another adult in a different vehicle was also killed. Around 18 other people, including many of the children, were injured and taken to local hospitals. Authorities say the driver of the 18-wheeler also died in the crash. Investigators are still working to understand exactly what happened, but what has truly stood out is how quickly the community came together. First responders, from sheriff's deputies and firefighters to paramedics and hospital staff, moved with care and urgency to help every child and adult involved. Parents rushed to reunite with their children, and school staff worked calmly and lovingly to support frightened families. In the days since, the people of Elgin and surrounding communities have wrapped their arms around these families. Vigils have been held, counselors have been made available at schools, and neighbors who may have never met before are dropping off meals, sending cards, and offering rides and childcare. Local churches and community centers have opened their doors for quiet prayer, reflection, and comfort. School officials have spoken with incredible grace, honoring the child who passed as a bright and joyful little one who was loved deeply by family, teachers, and classmates. They've emphasized that the focus now is on healing, helping the injured recover, guiding classmates through their grief, and giving parents space and support to hold their children a little closer. Across the internet, people from all over the country have been sending kind messages and heartfelt condolences. Many have shared their own experiences with school field trips and childhood bus rides, remembering the trust we place in the adults who care for our children every day. Others have honored the first responders and medical teams who stepped into a very difficult situation with courage and compassion. For older Americans especially, this story may stir memories of putting kids or grandkids on a school bus, waving from the driveway, and trusting that they'll come back home with stories about their day. Moments like this remind all of us how precious that everyday routine truly is. While nothing can erase the pain for the families who lost their loved ones, this community is making sure they are not facing that pain alone. People are lighting candles, sharing kind words, organizing support funds, and promising to remember the lives lost not just for how they died, but for how they lived, as beloved members of a caring, tightly knit town. As time goes on, the hope is that the children and adults who survived will continue to heal, that safety lessons learned from this tragedy will help protect others in the future, and that the child and adults who were lost will always be remembered for the joy, love, and everyday moments they brought to the world. In the end, this Texas town is showing all of us what community looks like at its best, standing together, lifting each other up, and making sure that those who are gone are honored with love, gentleness, and a promise never to forget their place in our shared story. News 2. You may remember singer Aubrey O'Day from the early 2000s, when Danity Kane was all over the radio and MTV. Well, fans were excited for a big reunion show this weekend in Anaheim, California, but Aubrey had to miss it for a very important reason. She's currently in the hospital focusing on her health. According to her team, Aubrey became seriously ill and was advised by doctors not to travel or perform. She shared that she was heartbroken to miss the show, because she truly wanted to celebrate with her bandmates and the fans who have supported them for so many years. Instead, she's under medical care and taking the time she needs to recover. At the reunion concert, her bandmates Don Richard and Dee Woods took the stage and made sure Aubrey's presence was still felt. They performed Danity Kane favorites and gave a warm shout-out to Aubrey, thanking her for everything they built together and sending her love and well wishes. Fans in the audience responded with cheers and support, creating a real feeling of community and gratitude. Even though Aubrey couldn't be there in person, her impact was clearly in the room. From their early days on the reality show Making the Band, to hit songs that defined a moment in pop and R&B, Aubrey and Danity Kane helped create memories for a whole generation of listeners. Right now, the most important thing is that Aubrey O'Day gets the rest and care she needs. Fans have been flooding social media with kind messages, prayers, and encouragement, reminding her how much she's appreciated not just as a performer, but as a person. As we look back on the music, the performances, and the fun times Danity Kane brought into people's lives, this moment is a gentle reminder to cherish our health and to support the artists who have given us so many good memories. Here's hoping Aubrey makes a full and speedy recovery, and that she feels all the love and appreciation surrounding her today and in the days ahead. News 3. Imagine heading out on a beautiful fall day for a hike, doing something you truly love, and leaving behind a story that touches hearts all over the country. That's what happened with 73-year-old hiker and grandfather, Richard Scott Graham, whose recent passing in a grizzly bear attack near Yellowstone National Park has deeply moved so many people online. Scott was hiking alone on the Buckskin Trail in Wyoming in October when he crossed paths with a grizzly. He had a lifetime of experience outdoors and was known by family and friends as someone who felt most at peace in nature. Tragically, he did not survive the encounter, but what's bringing comfort to his loved ones now is something very modern: his smartwatch. Investigators were able to look at the data from Scott's watch, which quietly recorded his final moments, from his heart rate to his steps. That information helped them understand that the attack was sudden and that it was over quickly. For his family, that small detail has offered real peace of mind. They've shared that knowing he wasn't suffering for long, and that he was out in the wild he loved so much, has helped them through their grief. Friends remember Scott as a kind, gentle soul, a devoted grandfather, and an avid outdoorsman who respected wildlife and public lands. He had spent decades hiking and exploring, and he passed that love for the outdoors on to his children and grandchildren. In many ways, his story is a reminder that even in an age of technology, what matters most is how we spend our time and who we share it with. Online, people have been responding with an outpouring of sympathy and admiration, not only for Scott's adventurous spirit, but also for the way his family has chosen to focus on gratitude, love, and happy memories. They've talked about picture-perfect family hikes, quiet fishing trips, and simple moments sitting together, watching the sun go down over the mountains. As we reflect on Scott Graham's life, we're reminded to cherish the places we love, the people we hold dear, and the time we're given. His legacy lives on in every trail his grandkids will hike, in every shared story at family gatherings, and in the simple joy of stepping outside and taking a deep breath of fresh air. That's how he'll be remembered, as a loving grandfather, a true outdoorsman, and a man who followed his heart all the way into the great wide open. News 4. You know, every so often a story comes along that reminds us just how powerful it can be to speak up for your own health. Actress Lili Reinhart, who many know from the series Riverdale, is sharing a very personal journey after finally being diagnosed with endometriosis at age 28, and her honesty is touching a nerve with women of all ages. For years, Lili says she experienced severe pain and troubling symptoms that just didn't feel normal. She went to doctors, described what she was going through, and was repeatedly told everything looked fine. At one point she was even reassured that her pain was likely just anxiety, but deep down, she knew something wasn't right. Recently, Lili decided to push for more answers. She found a new specialist, underwent laparoscopic surgery, and at last received a clear diagnosis: endometriosis, a condition where tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside of it, often causing intense pain and other health issues. It's a diagnosis many women spend years trying to get, and for Lili, it brought both relief and a new sense of purpose. Instead of keeping this chapter of her life private, Lili took to social media to share what happened. She spoke openly about being dismissed, about feeling scared and confused, and about finally being heard. Her message was simple but powerful. If you feel something is wrong, you are allowed to keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and keep advocating for your own body. Women from all over the world have responded, thanking her for putting into words what they've experienced themselves. Some say her story has encouraged them to make that long-delayed doctor's appointment. Others say they feel less alone, knowing someone in the spotlight understands what they're going through. Lili's experience is a reminder many older viewers may connect with. That quiet inner voice that says, "This isn't normal," is worth listening to. Whether it's a second opinion, a different specialist, or simply asking for more information, it is never too late to stand up for your health or support a loved one in standing up for theirs. As Lili Reinhart continues her recovery and adjusts to life with a long-awaited diagnosis, she's turning a painful chapter into a message of hope, strength, and self-advocacy. And that may be how she's remembered most for this moment. As a young woman who used her platform to help countless others feel seen, heard, and empowered to take their health seriously. News 5. Let me tell you a story today about a dad, a son, and a song that's touching hearts all across the internet. In Newark, Delaware, 43-year-old musician and father Nick Lutzko has been walking through one of life's hardest moments with his 4-year-old son Lou. Nick's wife and Lou's mom, 37-year-old Sarah Carter, passed away from cancer in August, leaving behind a deep sadness but also an incredible legacy of love. As Nick watched his little boy struggle with grief, he wanted to give him something that would last longer than words, something they could return to on the hardest days. So he did what he knew best. He wrote a song just for Lou, a gentle musical letter from Dad, full of comfort, honesty, and hope. The song is called "If I Lose You," and it's a tender, heartfelt track that speaks directly to a child trying to understand loss. Nick wrote it to help his son process the pain of losing his mom, and to remind him that he is never alone, no matter what life brings. Every lyric is carefully crafted, full of warmth and reassurance, reflecting the kind of loving, present father Nick is striving to be. When Nick shared the song online, the response was overwhelming. People from all over began listening, sharing, and leaving messages about how the song helped them with their own losses or moved them to hug their children a little tighter. What began as one dad's private gift to his little boy has become a source of comfort for thousands of families who know what it feels like to say goodbye too soon. Friends and relatives say that Sarah was joyful, kind, and deeply devoted to her family. While she is no longer physically here, her influence is woven through every note of Nick's song. You can hear it in the tenderness of his voice, in the way he sings about love that doesn't end, and in the promise that her memory will stay alive in their home and in Lou's heart. Nick has said that writing the song was a way to help both himself and his son heal, and to create something beautiful out of something so painful. It's become more than just a melody. It's a keepsake, a way for Lou to always have a piece of his parents' love to hold on to as he grows up. Stories like this remind us of the power of music, the strength of family, and how love can carry us through even the darkest seasons. As this song continues to spread, listeners aren't just hearing a tribute to a beloved wife and mother, they're hearing a father's promise to his son and a celebration of a life well lived. And that may be the most touching part of all. Through this simple, heartfelt song, Sarah's spirit, Nick's devotion, and little Lou's courage will be remembered and honored for years to come. News 6. Imagine waking up to the sound of rushing water and realizing, in an instant, that everything you own is being swept away. That's exactly what happened to a Washington couple, Keith and Carol Feist, when powerful floodwaters tore through their community and carried their home right off its foundation. Keith and Carol, who live along the North Fork of the Stillaguamish River in Washington state, had only moments to react. As the river rose and the ground began to give way, they escaped with their dogs and just a few belongings. Behind them, the place they'd called home for years was pulled into the raging water and carried downstream, later found lodged under a bridge nearly intact but completely unlivable. What could have been only a story of loss has instead become a story of gratitude and community. Keith and Carol have spoken about how thankful they are simply to be alive, to have each other, and to have neighbors and loved ones who immediately stepped in to help. Local residents and friends have offered clothes, temporary shelter, and warm meals, wrapping the couple in the kind of support that reminds us what community really means. For many older Americans watching this, it may bring back memories of tough times weathered over the years, when neighbors showed up unasked, and small acts of kindness made a big difference. Keith and Carol's story is a gentle reminder that while homes and possessions can be lost in a moment, the things that truly matter, love, faith, friendship, and resilience, are much harder to wash away. As they begin the long process of rebuilding their lives, Keith and Carol are choosing to focus on what they still have, not just on what they lost. They're holding on to each other, grateful for every new day, and taking comfort in a community that refuses to let them face this challenge alone. In the end, their home may have been swept away by the flood, but their spirit, their courage, and the kindness surrounding them will be what people remember. A powerful example of how hope and togetherness can rise even higher than the water. Number 1. Those who heard Anda-Louise Bogza sing often felt that her voice carried both strength and tenderness in every phrase. Anda-Louise Bogza was born on February 21, 1965, in Piatra Neamț, Romania. From early on, music became her path. She studied at the George Enescu Conservatory in Iași, continued at the National University of Music Bucharest, and then at the Academy of Performing Arts in Prague, where she devoted herself to piano, singing, and harpsichord. These years of study shaped the artist the world would come to know. Her professional journey began in Prague, on the stages of the State Opera and the National Theatre. What started there grew into a truly international career. She became known as a Romanian-born opera soprano who built a life and a reputation in the Czech Republic, eventually residing permanently in Prague and serving as a soloist at the National Theatre until 2023. Audiences across Europe and beyond came to recognize her in powerful and lyrical roles. Aida, Tosca, Rusalka, Leonora in Il Trovatore, Minnie in La Fanciulla del West, Abigail in Nabucco, Donna Anna in Don Giovanni, Manon Lescaut, Turandot, Desdemona in Otello, Elisabetta in Don Carlo, Giorgetta in Il Tabarro, Caterina in Cacciacabanova, Genufa, Amelia in Un ballo in maschera, and Lisa in Pic Dam. Through Verdi, Puccini, Dvorak, and many others, she brought stories to life with her voice. Her talent took her to some of the world's respected opera houses and festivals, the Vienna State Opera and Berlin State Opera, as Aida, the Bavarian State Opera in Munich, Maggio Musicale Fiorentino, Opera Nationale de Paris, where she appeared as Rusalka, the Teatro dell'Opera di Roma, the New Israeli Opera, the Slovak National Theatre, the Romanian National Opera, and the Salzburg Festival, among others. She also worked with distinguished conductors, including Zubin Mehta and Fabio Luisi. Anda-Louise Bogza's artistry was recognized early and often. In 1994, she achieved both the first prize and the audience prize at the Vienna International Singing Competition. In 2007, she received the Thalia Award for Opera, honoring her contribution to the stage. Anda-Louise Bogza died on December 13, 2025. She leaves behind a legacy of performances that continue to echo in the memories of audiences, colleagues, and the many people who were moved by her voice. Tributes to Anda-Louise Bogza. Those who worked closest with him say Peter Green wasn't just a powerful presence on screen, but a terrific man behind the scenes as well. Peter Green was born Peter Green on October 8,